Welcome to the Inside Maumee Athletics podcast, where we bring you the pulse of the Panthers' athletic scenes.
Welcome back to Inside Maumee Athletics. I'm your host, Jeremy Schneider, and this week we're doing something a little bit different. I'm dropping 2 episodes this week. Today, I caught up with both Panthers softball coach Brian Jones and Panthers baseball coach Todd Ery, fresh off their spring break trips to Myrtle Beach. And later this week, I've got an exclusive sit-down with new Rockets head football coach and Maumee alum Mike Jacobs. I'm really excited for you to hear that conversation. We talk about what it's been like coming back to Northwest Ohio after nearly 30 years away, what the jump from Mercer to Toledo has looked like so far, how he's blending a returning roster with guys who followed him north, and what he's already seen in spring practice. The Rockets have their spring game this Saturday, April the 18th, so the timing couldn't be better to talk some Toledo football. But first, let's head to Myrtle Beach. The Panthers baseball team went 3-1 on their trip, bumping their record to 4-2 this year. Coach Ery and I talked about what the week revealed about his team's resilience, the value of getting real game reps early in the season, and how 5 teenage boys sharing a hotel room can somehow build chemistry. He also shared the one moment from the trip that he'll never forget, and trust me, it's not what you're thinking. Here's my conversation with Todd Ery. I guess let's just start with on the field type stuff. You guys went 3-1 down there. How did the team improve? What was the experience like down on the field in Myrtle Beach?
The biggest thing, I think, was just, the opportunity to be able to play 4 games in nicer weather.
Right.
Obviously we were pretty limited back home the week prior. We played 2 out of our 4 games, and having the chance to play 4 games in 3 days down there was just really good for us to get game reps, meaningful reps for players that, we're trying to figure out where their roles fit. So that was the huge, that's one of the major reasons why we go down there to begin with. And it was the first time in the 3 trips that we've been down there since 19 that we did actually get to play all of our games, JV games included. So it was nice to be able to go down there and get, 7 guaranteed baseball games in for our program and just get those guys, really, get their feet under them, get their swings, the rust off the swings a little bit, get the arms stretched out a little bit as far as pitching goes, and be able to compete.
So what do you think you learned about the team? And maybe more importantly, what do you think the players learned about themselves and each other by getting all those games in down there?
As far as what I learned is, I think we got a lot of guys that can step in and play meaningful roles for us, over the next, month and a half or so, whether it's as a relief pitcher, whether it's as a defensive replacement or a base runner, guys did some nice things down there that show that they can contribute at the varsity level. So, going back to what we talked about a few weeks ago, it's just trying to figure out how to juggle them around and make sure that our rosters are balanced between our JV and our varsity program. As far as what the guys learned, I think that they're a resilient group. We've played all of our ball games have been tight this year. We're not winning games easily. And more often than not, we've been in situations where we're having to come from behind to win these baseball games. And that's a huge, I guess, credit to them and their, willingness to compete regardless of the situation, regardless of the scoreboard. Sometimes, I've been around baseball enough to see that, there are situations where you fall behind early and it could be a little bit demoralizing, and you pack it in and you say, well, we got another one tomorrow. Right. But this team doesn't have that in them. We fell down our last game down there. We were down 4-0 after the first, in the bottom of the first, or top of the first inning. So right away they came out, scored 4 runs, and we did not look good. It was our last day. Several factors could contribute to that, but sure, you say, hey, we're here for the rest of this game, let's compete, right? Let's take the scoreboard out of the equation. That can't control our effort from here going forward. Let's see if we can't turn this into a ball game. And sure enough, we, added a few here and there. We got a 5-4 lead before 2-off along. We added some more on the back end, and we're able to win that baseball game. And it's just a credit to their resilience and, trying to stay in the moment and, deny the circumstances, the saying we're using this year. Don't let the outside things dictate what we're doing on the field from one inning to the next.
Let's talk about maybe off the field now too, because you get all these guys away from Maumee. You get them away from, you get them away from their normal circumstances here, and they're forced to be together. How does that contribute to team building? How does that contribute to just the morale of the team and how this team interacts with each other?
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly spending a lot more time with one another for the 4-5 days that we're down there. They're 5 guys in a room, which I'm sure none of them are used to that. So it's a new situation where you're having to learn how to navigate, being a roommate for a handful of days. And, you get to know people in a little bit different sense, and you share experiences, and you build trust through that, I think. And, most certainly they're able to get out and do things that that they can't do back in Maumee, Ohio. So I think it just goes to strengthening the team chemistry in general, by, giving them a situation where, they can't go back to their comfort zone, right? They got to experience something a little bit different, and, being exposed to a situation like that for, even a short period of time, I think makes a difference and can build bonds that, hopefully can help the team going down the road.
Do you feel like maybe it improves a little bit of maturity too? Not saying that anybody's immature, but these are, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old guys. And not that you guys are just kind of turning them loose on Myrtle Beach, but with 5 guys in a room, they've got to take some responsibility and some maturity for what's happening inside that room and, making sure the room's not a mess, all that sort of stuff. So do you feel like it kind of contributes and helps build a little bit of maturity for the guys?
I would hope so. That we give them, I don't want to say read them the riot act, because it wasn't quite that, but
right.
We give them some guidelines to follow as far as that kind of stuff goes, because the first time that we took a trip, I walked into one of the rooms on day 3, and it looked like people had been living there for a month. Just the amount of garbage and things that had piled up, and the lack of, maybe some daily cleaning and organizing. So,
yeah.
You send the message, hey, you're going to be sharing this space for, the 4 nights. So, you got to make sure that you're doing some daily pickup, and, we have, certain check-in times, and, I think it does. And it may be for some of them, right, it prepares them for what life might be like for, if they're going away to college. Sure. And sharing a room with somebody for the first time that's not their immediate family. So yeah, there's certainly some responsibility that comes along with it. And, they handled themselves well down there from, as far as I know. And if that's not the case, then I don't want to hear about it at this point, but they did a really nice job. When I checked, did final room walkthrough, yesterday morning, everything was about as good as you could think for, having 5 teenage boys staying in a room together for any duration. So they handled themselves well.
That's a good thing. Last question here. What do you think, what's the one memory on field, off the field, anything that you're going to be taking with you from this specific trip?
Well, I tell you what, I think that it came from a JV game. Actually, we, our JV team was, second. I think it was their second game of the trip. It would have been Wednesday morning. They were losing 14-1.
Wow.
Early in a baseball game, and our guys are required. The varsity guys that aren't dressed for the JV game they have to be there to watch and support.
Oh, yeah.
That's part of the whole trip.
Sure.
And the JV team, they won that baseball game, and just having everybody there and experiencing that, the varsity guys cheering them on, and just what that looked like. I mean, it was one of the most legendary things that I've ever seen as a coach, being that far down in a game that there's a strict 2-hour time limit for JV baseball games down there.
Yeah.
And they scored 6 runs with 2 outs in what was going to be the last inning before time expired to win that baseball game. And it was just incredible for the program, and the excitement from everybody, from the coaching staff to the JV players and the varsity players that were there, watching and supporting them. So I think that was a really cool experience for everyone involved. And I think that's something that they'll certainly remember, hopefully long down the road.
Well, that's it. I just wanted to catch up with you after the trip down there and just kind of let everybody know how it went. So it sounds like it was a pretty successful trip.
Yeah, the sun shined, and we got our games in, and came home with some wins. So all in all, we're pretty happy with the way it went.
That's about all you can ask for. Big thanks to Todd for carving out a few minutes during the season. It's early, but this team is already showing some things that should have all of us paying attention. Keep an eye on the Panthers this spring. Now let's check in on the softball side. Maumee went 2-1 in Myrtle Beach, moving to 4-3 on the year. Coach Jones told me this was one of the best trips the program has had. They went up against teams from Kentucky, South Carolina, and New York, so they were tested all week. He breaks down what those matchups taught his girls, how the trip is intentionally designed to build team chemistry, and why this group's ability to just lock in at game time was something that really stood out to him. Here's my conversation with Brian Jones. Let's start with on the field. You guys went 2-1 down there.
Yep.
Got to play some teams from some different parts of the country. I think it's valuable to get to see different people from different areas and kind of test you in different ways. How do you think the girls succeeded? How do you think they performed on the field? What were your takeaways?
I thought we played really well in all 3 games. Playing teams from different states is always good because you don't know them, right? You don't hear about them. You don't scout them. You can see them on Game Changer and you can see what their record is, but you really don't know them. The first team we played, Boyd County, we've played them before.
Okay.
A couple times down there, and they're in the same league as East Carter. They've won the league the last couple of years between the two of them, so we knew that was a good team going in, and we played extremely well against them.
Okay.
We jumped on them early, 7-0, and then Hannah threw 153 pitches that game, so she got a little tired at the end, so they started hitting her a little bit. And then, we ended up winning that game. Second team we played was from South Carolina, but they were really good. They were actually in the Final Four for the States a couple of years ago. So that was good. And then the third team we played was from New York. He didn't have a lot of experience because they still had snow on the ground when they were there last week or this week. But they were still a good quality young team. So it's just always good to play teams that you don't know. You learn as you go along. You learn their pitchers. You learn their hitters and stuff like that. So it's a great experience to play those kinds.
Because you can kind of get in a little bit of a rut when you're playing the Eastwoods, the Oak Harbors, even the Springfields. What those girls, who those girls are, what they bring to the table. Does this kind of help you maybe when you get into a little bit deeper of a postseason run, you start facing people that maybe you don't know quite as well?
It does. It helps you. It helps you think about, okay, remember when we played this team in Myrtle Beach? We didn't know them. Let's really pay close attention to their pitcher while they're warming up. Pay attention to their outfielders when they're doing infield. Because to your point, if you play Eastwood 3 times and then you play again, you already know them. You might lose focus of what you need to pay attention to. You start playing teams you don't know, maybe pregame or maybe the second or third inning, you're watching them warm up, or you might pick up something that the catcher might tip off, whether they're going to call a changeup or a curveball or something like that. It could go a long way in a very important game.
On the field, it's also got to be, the weather hasn't been horrible up here this spring, but it's been chilly. I'm sure there's been some games that you've had to postpone or move. So just getting that game rep, getting that game experience. I know even though your girls you have a pretty veteran crew, it's still got to be huge for, getting some of that rust knocked off and just getting some experience early in the season.
It is good. It's good to get down there. I don't want to say you're guaranteed games down there, but being on turf, you're pretty much guaranteed.
Sure.
It's good. We come back at a good time. We're 4-3. We've lost to a couple good teams, but we run right into league play on Monday. We go Fostoria next week for league play. We go Fostoria, Genoa, Rossford. So we've got 3 very important league games that we've got to, kind of start the season off well with, and I think playing well down there will carry that over into our league play for sure.
How do you think this trip down to South Carolina, how do you think it helps the girls off the field? Maybe like as far as, team morale, team building, all that sort of stuff. Is that a valuable thing for them to be down there and kind of be apart from everything that they're used to?
Yeah, I think it's huge to get away because when you play in town, you play a game, okay, then you go home to family, you go home to friends. Down there, we play a game, then we kind of let them go off on their own for about 4 or 5 hours to do family things, beach time, and then we do family or like team bonding at the end of the night. So we do a team dinner. We go out to a place called the Hangout that's kind of cool. We have some beach games and stuff like that. And then, they stay in their own rooms, so we kind of split it up. So there's 4 in each room. And we kind of pair it up to where maybe, they're not the closest friends coming into the season, maybe like a freshman and a senior that might not know each other. We pair them up in the rooms down there. That way they get to build that team camaraderie, and that teamwork, kind of between them. And then they get to know each other better while they're down there for 4 or 5 days. And then it's just easier when you come back up here and you start playing. They start to know each other better. They start to trust each other better, and they play well together.
What do you think, and I don't know if maybe there's one that sticks out more than the other, but do you have a memory from this week that you're going to take with you? Was there something on the field that happened? Was there something off the field? Is there one memory that stands out to you that you're going to remember this week for?
Probably not one, just kind of the way we played. One thing I love about this team is there's 12 girls that are really focused. The best part about the whole trip was awesome this year, by the way. It was by far the best one we've had. No drama. Everything kind of went really smooth. But the one thing I really like about this team is when it comes game time, they kind of just forget about everything and play softball. Before we went down there in the past, that first game, was kind of rough because we were so focused on getting on the beach or we wanted to go here, we want to do this. You could tell they were focused on softball. And that was really cool because it was still a softball trip, but it was still a trip to have fun too. But it seemed like every time it was ready for softball, it was like, okay, I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to put all the distractions aside. I'm going to go play softball. And then when softball's done, I'll go back to the real world. So,
you said this is a very focused team. Do you kind of feel like getting them away from Maumee and giving them this experience kind of helps them, because there's a fine line between being very focused and very driven and taking it too seriously and not being able to kind of adjust or roll with the punches. Do you feel like a trip like this maybe kind of helps with that a little bit, kind of puts things in perspective or gives them that little edge they need to maybe kind of go through the tough times?
Yeah, I think it's definitely good to get away, and then you get away. Like I said, you play a game and then you go sit on the beach for 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
You're not talking to your friends from other schools. Hey, how you doing? Stuff like that. So they kind of got away from. Some of them didn't even know some of the other teams were playing in Toledo while we were playing. Because we were playing at 9 a.m. and they're all playing at 5 p.m. So we're done. We're having fun on the beach, and then some of their friends are playing and stuff like that. So it kind of got them away from that. So I think that's a really good thing. Yes.
All right. Well, that's all I got for you. I really appreciate you doing this and taking the time with me. Just wanted to kind of check in after the trip. I thought it's a great thing that you guys do.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was a great time. Yes.
Thanks to Brian for joining the show. With Myrtle Beach in the rear view, the Panthers head straight into Northern Buckeye Conference play. Fostoria, Rossford, Genoa are all coming up. Based on what Coach Jones shared, Maumee sounds ready. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside Maumee Athletics. If you're enjoying the show, do me a favor. Follow us and leave a review wherever you're listening. It genuinely helps more people find the show, and I appreciate it more than you know. You can reach me at InsideMaumeeAthletics@gmail.com and find us on Facebook by searching Inside Maumee Athletics. And do not forget, I'll be back in just a few days with Toledo Rockets head coach Mike Jacobs. You're not going to want to miss that one. Until then, thanks for listening.